Hello and welcome to Real Hi-Fi Help. In this video, I will be discussing the ways that you can improve your power box that will make your sound a hell of a lot better. And welcome back again. So I've taken a picture here of what is basically the best power box on the market that gives you the best value. I haven't really heard any power boxes that are better than this. I've heard power boxes that are like 10 times more expensive, but this is just to show you because it's so much easier with this box showing you exactly what I mean. Coincidentally, I also have this power box, and I've heard this power box being tweaked at a friend's place. And I've heard power boxes that were built in a similar way. So this is going to help you guys with that. Just to let you guys know that power boxes in general are very restrictive in sound because they have to go through some very hardcore approval processes by several companies. So in order to do that, basically have to limit the sound by using some materials that generally hold the music back really a lot. So typically you would get a sound that is a lot less colorful, a lot less exciting, a lot less free, a lot less natural, because you're just basically trying to live up to these really high levels of demands from these special companies that you're paying to get your stuff approved. So yeah, let's dive into it. This is very exciting. Remember to read all of the stuff that I've written here, but you'll basically void your warranty. So this could possibly, in theory, give you problems so that it burns down the equipment or your house or whatever. So you might not want to do that if you're concerned about that. So just know that all the stuff in this video you do on your own, in your own way by contacting a technician, and it's your responsibility whatever you do. I cannot be held responsible for what you do with this information. I would only suggest doing this on a reasonably good piece of equipment. So this is a very good piece of equipment. I've heard from friends doing it on Syndac power bars, which only cost a fraction of this, and some other simple power bars. Usually with cheap power bars, there are cheap plugs in them, cheap resistors, cheap capacitors, cheap cables, cheap a lot of stuff. So just changing the plugs will make a huge difference. And try to use proper plugs. Okay, just use Oyed or Furatech or something like Wattgate. Don't use these cheap imitation plugs off eBay. They might give you like 10 or 20% extra, but it's not really worth it in general. This is what will happen when you change the construction of your box, changing it to higher level ingredients here. So this is basically the stuff that you do. Change the inlet plug. Inlet plug is where the power comes in. Usually they use a very cheap plug. I don't care if you use $10, $20, $30,000 on a really good box. There almost always is a not really good inlet plug in it. And also use a better fuse. Most of the fuses that get used are just a really crap standard fuse. Get rid of that. Put a proper fuse in it. And you will be getting a hell of a lot of value for your money changing all the power plugs to Furatech NCF. Furatech NCF is basically the only stuff that I recommend changing to. So these are the power plugs. Just so you guys know, this is a special better filter, and this is like the lesser good filter. So this is the high current stuff, and this is the lower current stuff, just if you guys were wondering about that. Change the capacitors to a bigger and better type, especially a better type. Capacitors that are used in pieces of equipment like this are usually one of the sources for why it's slightly thin, metallic, boring, gray in sound. So changing a little thing like this that probably only costs like $1 to something that costs $10 or $100 will create a huge difference most of the time. Not always, but most of the time. Also, the capacitors over here, they could in theory be changed, but that's a big job. I would not do that. Also notice these small parts here. Can you see these resistors? Resistors are one of those things that can really lift the sound a lot, because normal resistors that are used in equipment are just really bad resistors. Very limited in sound, keeping it very safe. So yeah, you don't really want to stick with normal resistors. You could also go over to using dampening mass. I can show you later what I mean about that. You can use a better cable type. I know that in this box, the cable that is used is better than standard. So, but most cables that are used in power boxes are really bad. So changing them in itself can improve the sound a lot. That was just my phone. Use I would suggest when you use resistors, use something like audio note non-magnetic types, because those resistors are where resistors really start getting good. Most crap resistors around $1, forget it. Most of them are just really bad, and they might give you a good value for the buck, fine, but if you pay usually around, I don't know, $10 to $50, something like that, for a resistor, you get a hell of a lot better performance, a hell of a lot better. And I would suggest only using Scotch removable adhesive pads. That's what I've done. They're very good at resisting temperature differences, so they won't melt away and gooey into your electrical parts. They have a tendency of keeping their shape. So yeah, these are really good and actually really cheap to get. So I think you can get that in bookstore or eBay or something like that. That's important that you read this. So let's get on with the dampening part. This is actually a secret that some few manufacturers use. So yeah, a lot of cheap gear vibrates a lot. And when you look at caps like these two that are very cheap, and over here we're looking at a Emotiva monoblock. Okay, they make some pretty cheap equipment, and when you make pretty cheap equipment, you have a lot of stuff vibrating a lot. So putting dampening mass like between these two and over here, all of these caps will create a more warm and luscious, comfortable sound, a lot more bass rich with a lot more it just creates a lot more natural sound. So I would in general not recommend having that directly on the equipment. Notice the fact that they've missed the board's electronics and it's not touching directly on the metallic parts that is conducting the electricity, but you could in theory put it on top, but I think it's a bit dangerous putting it near something that will it's my phone again, sorry, will lead the heat away. So best to do it between the chassis of the board that I'm pointing with here and the board. So if you have like 2 or 3 on this side around the screws between the board and the chassis, and on this side, on that side, and on this side, that will usually give you a much more rich and warm type of sound. And especially with older gear and cheaper equipment, it's very, very good tweak to do this. I mean, you could You could also have a piece of equipment like Macintosh, Paz Labs, Mark Levinson, and if you don't want that metallic hi-fi-ish sound, doing this alone without doing anything else will give you a lot more of a warm and organic sound, and it will make it more enjoyable. So you won't get this square, harsh, in your face kind of effect. So yeah, it what it basically does, I think I mentioned it before, it just removes vibration. So try not put it on any part of the circuitry where the electrical signal goes through. And you can, in theory, also put it between the board and the capacitor, like a small blob right here that I'm pointing with my arrow here, my cursor. You can put like a blob here and a blob on the other side, and also a blob here and a blob there. What they've done here, Emotiva, will actually create a lot of artificial warmness. That is a hell of a lot of dampening material. It might be that this equipment sounds better with stuff like that, but I think they've overdone it a bit. But you can always experiment with it, you know. You can try 10 different settings of dampening material that you've used on your material and on your equipment, and you will be surprised how much this will help. I mean, if you have, for example, a streamer and you have an external PSU power supply unit for it, like a Teradac, if you open that thing up and just put like 4 GUI parts on each side, you will change the sound dramatically. I have encountered that a couple of times, that I put too much of this GUI stuff on, and it just kept it made it too warm and restrictive, and it kind of locked the sound. So you have to find out how much that you want to put on the equipment. But yeah, you don't want to do this on the highest gear, quality gear in the world. So medium to high level audio note gear, you don't want to do it on that. But you could have an old piece of audio note gear in the lower end that's maybe like 10 to 20 years old. It can actually make audio note gear, which is some of the best gear in the world, sound pretty a lot better, a hell of a lot better. But once you get up into the higher class gear, I would definitely not suggest using dampening material, because then you would want to hear how the high quality parts directly interact with the boards that they usually have that are in some kind of a wooden material, because that's going to suppress that in a negative way. So yeah, really good tip. And you don't have to necessarily have this box, but you can have any other power box, which you can perform these tweaks with. So I hope that helps you guys to enjoy your music a lot. And yeah, try and subscribe and support this channel and by clicking like. And that's all for today, and have a nice day.